Hi, everybody. How are you? Today is September 20th, 2022, and I live in Saudi Arabia for some of you that might not know. It has been now 8 years, close to 8 years, that I've been living in this country, and I still get surprised of the things that happen. So I wanted to talk about something that just happened. I went for grocery shopping, and what are the odds that two cars hit me from side to side at the same time? It happened. The difference is that a lot of cars do stop in other countries. These in Saudi Arabia, people don't stop. They consider that you need to continue with your, each one gets their own accident. They keep their own accident and deal with it and done. And they actually even smile and they're like, Habibi, I I'm not criticizing what happens because it's part of their culture. The problem is that you have to be aware that when you come to Saudi Arabia, this could happen. And this also happens in Qatar, in Bahrain, and in most parts of the Middle East. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about why they hit me. And, well, so we were in a stoplight and there is a U-turn next to me, but I was blocking it because, well, I happened to be there. So I decided to move a little bit forward to let the car to the left move. And the car, in fact, does advance. But then the car on the other side is having an issue because some other car is having some, I don't know, some pissing contests or something like that. And he just throws himself. And in the process, he hits me. And the other car hits me at the same time. Lucky enough, it wasn't a big issue. It was a big deal. I only have my two lights broken, but that's pretty much it. Tail lights broken. But I think the most important part of this that matters is that a lot of people wonder if road rage, if rage in itself, if behaviors such as these have to do with neurodiversity. And I would have to say that I don't know. But it is very true that ADHD people and ADD and some neurodivergents tend to have less patience, and therefore we go with our impulsivity. So I'm going to mention three things that have to do with how sometimes we react. Now, what does this have to do with work? So imagine that you have a driver that you want to hire that says he has ADD or ADHD or is divergent. You must have some kind of assurance or some kind of understanding that there's liability, that this person could or could not burst at any point. And first of all, you have to make sure that this person has been diagnosed and is taking medications. I think that's the most important part. Then the other thing that happens is that at work, anybody that has or is driving a company car is at risk. So, yeah, that's where we are right now. Now, let's talk about the office. How does this happen in the office? You know that there's always the coworker that suddenly just bursts in rage or is upset or gets easily upset. um, it happens, and especially if the person is neurodivergent, I would say that that would be a good reason to look into it. Why? Well, so you have a person that obviously has impulse control issues, meaning compulsive. You also have a person that is fearful of abandonment. And you have a person that, let's see, fear of abandonment, impulsive, and inability to process certain words, okay? This you have to keep in mind. Or hyperfocus. Either one could affect hyperfocus or the inability to listen clearly. It's kind of like being deaf, but listening to certain parts of the conversation and then suddenly having like a blockage of sounds and then being able to hear again. That's how it sounds for us, some conversations. So in order for us to avoid feeling that way when we're in the office, what we do is that we hyperfocus. And when we hyperfocus, people think that because they're talking to us, we're going to immediately turn around and react. And that's not how it happens. That's even my husband does this, and he's not neurodivergent. It happens to everybody. The difference is that somehow, apparently, people still do process the information even after the question or the conversation has finished. Neurotypicals do that. Neurodivergents will usually turn around and say, huh? We live with a huh in our mouth all single day. Because we're hyper focused. Again, please keep in mind that we are not trying to ignore you. We are not trying to feel more important than you. It just simply is how we are. And not because we want to, but because it is something that we have in our brain that cannot process certain words. And we have to be able to pay full attention to the person so that we can understand what is being said to us. This is also something related to reading. I don't know if you've ever heard about bionic reading. Bionic reading is you read something, and for neurotypicals, reading is normal. It's just you're reading, and as you're reading, you understand the information that you're processing. For us neurodivergents, we usually have to at least read things 5 times, 6 times, and eventually we give up, or we try, the next day, or we buy audiobooks. In my case, I buy the book and I buy the audiobook. I like to follow along. I like to listen, and I like to highlight the important parts so that I can continue with my program that I'm writing. And so overall, what I want to say is, like, imagine a scenario that there's a coworker that is listening to you, but not really listening to you. Okay, keep in mind this person is neurodivergent, and she suddenly reverts her attention to something else, not because she wants to, but because she can't avoid it. And you say something that is misinterpreted. This person can just turn around and say, "What did you tell me?" or "What this and that." They could have an outburst, and it could cause a lot of problems. So if there's anything related to road rage, I would say that it has also to do with what's going on around the world, in the United States. People are upset. And when you have something, an activity that you relate unconsciously to something in your past that is happening in your present, you usually have those reactions. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're no longer willing to wait or be put to the side. That is usually what happens when people have these outbursts in public. People are tired. People are tired of being ignored. So if you watch one of my prior videos, in one of those videos I mentioned that it is very important that you listen to people. People want to be heard. People want to feel that they're being seen and heard and recognized. So one of the best things that you can do is in the office is sit the person down and say, "Okay, what did I say that made you upset? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, And what is that you understood? Blah, blah, blah. If in fact your intention was not to offend the person or to say something inappropriate, you can clarify it in a moment. But also keep in mind that that is not enough. Now there is that rejection piece. The fear that we live with every single day, where we believe that everybody dislikes us and that everybody wants to ignore us or not invite us to events or so on and so on and so on, because we feel so different. We feel that people notice, and our constant fear of masking who we are makes us believe that we're going to be found or seen like who we are, and eventually people are going to not want us around. So there's this constant fear of abandonment, of missing out. And therefore, if at some point this person also not only misunderstood but felt rejected, that is also something that you want to address. And then lastly, the hearing part, that has nothing to do with a true actual problem with hearing. I want people to understand that. That is just how we process information. We hear bits and pieces and we put it together because, well, it's part of issues that we grew up with, and we kind of shut down, and so we only hear words that are at least a little bit positive. We close our minds to negative words, and or words that we believe are negative, or words that we heard constantly. So yes, so this has nothing to do with you or with the office or with some impairment. It is neurological. And so I invite bosses, I invite coworkers to sit down with the person the same as you would do with a neurotypical. When you have a difference, is the same way that we want to be treated, because that will resolve the problem. You are not treating with anybody any different than somebody that just simply wants to be heard and understood. I hope this video helped you and you found it useful. My name is Sandra Corona for Expatology and Brain Switch. Until next time, thank you. Bye.